What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Respect and Praise Show with yours truly, Miguel Mike Medina, Triple M. And on this episode, I am very happy for this particular person. She is someone that I've known for over 10 years. Everything that she's doing is absolutely no surprise to me at all. Why? Because I saw the hard work, the drive, and determination since freshman year in college. And now she's just absolutely killing it. And I can't wait to show you guys what this person has gone through, making the transition from one city to another, everything that she had to endure. So stay tuned because it'll be very exciting. But here's more of her work.
People across the U.S. have been coming together to protest in support of what's going on in Puerto Rico. And here in Atlanta, it was no different. This was the scene just outside the National Center for Civil and Human Rights building. Over 200 Puerto Ricans surrounded each other singing, showing their pride, and making sure their voices are heard here in Atlanta as they joined the 1 million people protesting in Puerto Rico. Today marks 12 days since a private chat between Governor Ricardo Rosselló and his inner circle were leaked. So the people will not forget what has been said and what has been done for the 4,645 people in Maria, for our health, our public health system, for our education system, for our children. Governor Rosselló also joked about the casualties caused by Hurricane Maria, sparking a historic protest of hundreds of thousands flooding the streets of San Juan, Puerto Rico, calling for his resignation.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to present to you one of the hardest working young journalists in the game right now, Kayla Rivera. Kayla, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Kayla, we've known each other since Mercy College, which has been over a decade, and it's unbelievable to even think that it's been that long. But I want to start from the beginning. When did you know that you want to become a journalist?
I know. Isn't it crazy that it's been 10 years already? Like, I remember when we were in college, me and you, me and Mike, we were majoring in the same thing together, and we were out there hustling in New York. So when you look back at it now, it's like amazing to see how far you've come and the impact that you're having, and then to look back at my career and just to know that I've made it this far. To answer your question, when did I know I wanted to be a journalist? So I feel like I've always wanted to be a journalist. I remember the first time that I was attracted to the news was at the age of 7. So you guys know I grew up in the Bronx. I grew up in the South Bronx. And during that time, it was a really rough neighborhood. And so my mom and dad didn't really want me out playing around with neighborhood kids or just being out in the neighborhood just because it really was not safe. So my way of escaping my house was going upstairs to my grandmother's house. And every time I would go to her room, she was always watching the news, old Latina women, they're always watching the news or a novela. And so she was always watching the news, and I just loved spending time with her. So I would just sit down and watch it. And I remember at 7, the first story that we ever followed religiously was the Natalie Holloway story. And even at just such a young age, that was intriguing to me. I was like, wow, how did they come up with this story and just the investigative side to it? But I didn't know I really wanted to be a journalist until I was 14 years old. When you're in school and you have career day and stuff, I feel like we were only taught the careers that everyone kind of knew about in terms of doctor, dentist, teacher. And those are all great careers. And those are careers that we need and we need more of. But it wasn't anything outside of that. So I didn't even know I could be a journalist or a reporter. And so at 14, I remember I did my regular routine. I'd come home from school, literally would put my bags down and turn on the news. And I remember sitting down and I had an epiphany, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. I want to be a journalist. And ever since that day, I've been, pursuing my career, and I'm happy to say that I'm here today.
Aside from Mercy College, you also attended CUNY Journalism School for your master's degree. What stories did you cover there?
So there I covered a lot of stories. I was covering a lot of New York stories, obviously in the city. I covered a lot of Bronx-related stories. And there was even a part in for 3 months, one of my professors literally gave us a hat. And they were like, okay, guys, you're all going to pick this random borough, and you have to report out of that district. And so, of course, mine was Brooklyn. If you're not from New York, Brooklyn and the Bronx are like on two opposite sides. And in New York, we don't drive; we take the public transportation. So it was insane, like commuting every single day to Brooklyn, and like not being acclimated with that borough, and not being acclimated with the city, and like how things operated out there with the district rather. So it was interesting, but I got to cover a lot of great stories. I even won an AC Press Award for covering the minimum wage in New York City at the time, so that was great. My capstone, while I was in the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism, I did a full-length documentary where I produced it, I wrote it, I shot it and edited, which was on cold cases in the Bronx, and I focused on two young men who were murdered. And basically, got the story from their mother's perspective. So that was really amazing. And I'm trying to think. I feel like it was so long ago. I covered a lot of stuff. A lot of community-based stories, which is what I love. And so I had a great time doing that and being a voice to the voiceless there in New York City.
As a person that was born and raised in the Bronx, what was the transition like going from New York to Atlanta? Was it a culture shock?
Oh my gosh, yes, you hit it right on the nail. It was a culture shock. So I never, in my wildest dreams, thought I'd ever leave the Bronx or leave New York City. And that is the truth. I never. If someone would have told me 5 years ago, 6 years ago, you're going to move out of New York City and you're going to move to Atlanta, I would have been like, yeah, okay, you're crazy. And it was never my intention to move out. I grew up in the Bronx. All of my resources were in New York City. I did all of my schooling out there. I got my master's degree out there, and all of my resources for my career were there. I had made a lot of connections throughout the years. I had met so many different people, and so I was ready after grad school to really go and work for News 12. That was like my dream. News 12 the Bronx, Pix 11, Channel 2. I even wanted to work for Complex, Complex News, that entertainment site. So I was really, really excited about my future after grad school in New York City. But honestly, God knows everything, and God has a perfect plan. And sometimes, even though we don't see it in our future, God sees it. And so it was a blessing. My parents made the decision that they were going to move out here because my brother had got accepted to Georgia State University. And so my mom, my dad, my brother, and sister decided to move. And even then I was like, I'm not going to Atlanta. Like, it's so funny because it just goes to show how naive I was of a city outside of New York. I was like, Mom, what am I gonna do? Like, there's no crime out there, there's no entertainment, there's no news. What is it gonna do for my career? And honestly, it was the best decision for my career. When I first moved out here after some convincing from my family, it was a culture shock. I literally was going to move back to the Bronx after 6 months. I said, there's no way, coming from New York, I think I was like 25 at the time. I didn't have a license because in New York, you don't need one. So I had to now acquire a license, obtain a license. I didn't know anyone out here. No one. All I knew was my parents and my siblings. No one else. So I had to find out what are the publications out here, what are the news stations out here. Being from New York City, it's like a melting pot. You see so many different nationalities and ethnicities, and it's just so diverse. And out here, I didn't see any of that. I was like, I don't see, my Latinos. I don't see any Puerto Ricans because obviously it's much different out here. It's not like boroughs. It's like counties, and it depends where you live. So it was hard. It was very, very hard. But I have to say, once I got acclimated with the city, once I got my license, once I started seeing the potential out here, once I started meeting people, it was the best decision for my career and honestly for my life.
God certainly had better plans for you, and it's paying off. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm just glad that you continue to hustle and apply for jobs in Atlanta, and look where you are now. So, how has motherhood changed you?
Whew. Motherhood has changed a lot, in good ways, in many good ways. It's changed me because, right after I got pregnant, literally, like, I found that I was pregnant literally just a few weeks before I graduated from grad school. like literally like 3 weeks prior. And so prior to that, prior to me finding out I was pregnant, I was so excited for my future and what was to come. I already planned out what I wanted to do. I had planned out where I wanted to apply. Like I had my whole plan, like just out on paper and everything. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I'll be honest, my initial reaction was, my life is over. Like I literally thought my life was over, not because I was having a child, but I felt like my life was over because my career. I feel like while I had accomplished so much, even at that young, at that age, I was 24 when I got pregnant, but I just felt like I didn't get a chance to like really live to my full potential when it came to my career. And now, how do I navigate being a mom and being a journalist? Being a journalist is a very, very tough career. You don't have traditional hours. It's 24/7 breaking news, and so you really have to devote a lot of your time into that. And so for me, I was like, how do I manage the two? How am I a good mom, but also a really good journalist where I can give myself to both things? And honestly, that was what I had to learn. I started working at CBS 46 News here in Atlanta when my daughter was only like 5 months old. So she was still a baby. Like I was still waking up, in the middle of the night. And it was crazy because that just pushed me to go 100 times harder. I thought my career was over, but my career, launched to an all new heights. I'm a mom now. I have a 5-month-old, and I'm here working at a top 10 news market. I have to give a big shout out to my support system back home. My parents, my siblings, my husband. Like, honestly, if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. And so having that support system, knowing that my daughter didn't lack anything, and that I can be a good mom and I can be a journalist meant so much to me. And, now she's 3, she's going to be 4 this year, which is insane how fast time flies. But just knowing that I can be an amazing mom and I can be an amazing journalist and everything that I've accomplished, it's amazing because, we did it together.
Wow, that's amazing. Having a great support system is everything, and you're superhuman because you're a full-time mom as well as a full-time journalist. And like you mentioned, being a journalist requires a lot of your time. So the fact that you're able to juggle both and you continue to grow and mature in both areas, much respect to you on that one. But let's go back all the way to 2020. 2020 is a year that we will never forget. We were at the beginning of the COVID era, and we also saw everything that transpired with George Floyd and his murder. We saw the protests, the riots on TV. You had the opportunity to cover 2 big events that it's part of history. So tell us how your experience was like being in the riot, because I can imagine how it must feel when you're in person seeing all of this. So tell us how that was like.
Oh my gosh, yes. It was insane to say the least. I still remember the first day I got called to go in and to cover a protest. This was the very first protest that happened in Atlanta. I'll never forget. The assignment desk editor called me. I was like, "Hey, just letting you know, can you come in a little bit earlier because we have you covering a protest today in Atlanta." And now at this time, tensions were already high. There were already protests happening in other states, and so I was a little apprehensive, and I was like, is that safe, And I remember he's like, yes, you'll be fine. They're not going to riot out here. They're not going to protest like that. Like, it's going to be fine. And honestly, that was the craziest day of my career, of my life, probably. But I have to tell you that being in that moment and covering these protests, I did it for 3 months. And it was insane because I literally got maced every single day for 3 months while I was working out there. But as a journalist, I remember I was covering a march at the time. And I remember, having this big camera and walking with all these people. And I remember being in that moment and being like, wow, like I'm a part of history. I'm a journalist that can say I covered protests in Atlanta day in and day out. I was on the front lines. And to see everyone coming together from different walks of life, from different ethnicities, from different nationalities, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to experience. And I know that a lot of people, saw on TV these riots and, kind of got the back end of everything, but there was a lot of positive, peaceful protesting, and I was there and I was covering it, and it was just like I said, it was beautiful to see, to know that I'm a part of history, and to know that I was able to march with these people day in and day out. It was amazing. But obviously, in that, the first few days were really hard. Like I said, I got maced every single day just because I was on the front lines. And whenever things got a little crazy, the police had to let off their tear gas. And my the first day that the assignment desk editor was like, "You'll be fine." I remember I got in at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I literally did not make it back to the station to go home until 5 in the morning. I also got shot with a rubber bullet that day by one of the police officers. He didn't know or anything like that. It just kind of shot off into the crowd, and I got shot. So crazy, but it was an experience to say the least.
I remember writing to you on Instagram, I believe it was, telling you to be careful, to stay safe, because from the videos that I saw that you uploaded, it was just crazy. But the most important thing is that that you're safe, that you're still here with us, and you cover great stories and continue to do that. Um, but speaking of which, you also cover celebrities. So, out of all the celebrities you have interviewed so far in your career, which one is your favorite one?
Oh, that's a good one. I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of different artists, a lot of different celebrities. Let me see. I always say this, Lil Baby. I interviewed Lil Baby. It was really short. I got to ask him a few questions when I was working at CBS, but it was great because he was already big at the time, and I didn't just get him when he was coming up. Like, no, Lil Baby. This is when he released My Turn. This was in 2020, and I remember I went to. He was giving out free album copies of his album during at West End Mall. And I remember I went up to him and I asked him questions, and he answered my questions like nothing, like I was like one of his friends. And after my interview, he said thank you. Like, he thanked me. In my head, I'm like, oh my goodness, I just got an interview with one of the biggest rappers in the game, and he's thanking me for that interview. So he was definitely one for the books. Let me see who else. Chris Tucker. I got to interview Chris Tucker. That one was really cool because I got to, have more of a one-on-one interview with him. I had more time with him. And so that was really cool. And I remember that day clearly because it was for his celebrity golf tournament. And I remember I got a really good interview with him. And I remember I got a picture with him and everything. And I remember leaving, going to my next event. And when I go look back at the footage, the audio is not there. There's no audio. So imagine my feeling at that moment. So I called his publicist and was like, I'm so sorry, but like I need to do my interview again. And she's like, okay, yeah, come. There's no guarantee because obviously he was at his own event. Long story short, I drove back because it was pretty far. And he gave me another interview like nothing, like literally like nothing. And so that to me was amazing. Got to interview Shaq. Shaq was really cool. Trying to think. I've interviewed a lot of reggaeton artists too. Who did I interview recently? It's gonna come to me after, but I've got a lot of good interviews, under my belt, and I'm just proud that God has opened up the doors continuously.
Is there any celebrity that you felt a little nervous about before you went to interview them?
Every interview. Honestly, I get nervous before any interview. Like, I get nervous, but not, if that makes sense. Like, I'm very comfortable when I'm about to go to interview, and I'm the type of journalist that, like, I don't care if the interview was not scheduled or if I'm, like, working at an event and I see a celebrity there. I'm going to go for it Because for me, my biggest thing is like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So for me, what's the worst they're going to tell me? No. Okay, I kind of already assumed you were going to say no. But what if they say yes? What if they see you and they're like, you know what, yeah, let me just give this girl an interview. So I'm always nervous, low key, when I go do an interview, but not really because, I go in, I usually sometimes I have my questions prepared or sometimes I just have to, come up with them because I just got that on the spot interview. So I will say I was nervous. I interviewed Carrie Hilson recently, and she's like even more beautiful in person. So I got a little nervous interviewing her. Meagan Good, I got to interview Meagan Good, and she's another one that's even more beautiful in person. I remember I was there and I was just like staring at her like this because I couldn't believe like I was interviewing the Meagan Good. Who else? Oh, I got to interview CJ. CJ, whoopty. I got to interview him. I remember when that song came out, I was like, I got to interview him. Like, I really want to interview him because I knew he was about to blow, and then he literally blew up. And so I remember when I finally, like, found his publicist, reached out, and then his team approved it. I was super nervous for that interview, but it went really well, so I can't complain.
You covered Vibra Urbana in Miami, which is America's biggest Reggaeton Festival, and hopefully I get to go over there someday, maybe next year in the future. What was the biggest takeaway of the festival, and did it meet your expectations?
Well, Mike, now that I know you want to go, I got you. I'll definitely send you over that credential application. And, if I got an extra plus one, I got you. We can cover it together. Vibra Urbana was amazing. I honestly had no expectations going into it because I didn't know what to expect. I was just happy that I got approved to be there, honestly. Like, I don't care if I didn't get anything out of it. Like, I was happy that they saw value in me. And and they were like, yes, we want you to come and we want you to cover it. It was crazy. Okay, one, the lineup was insane. I mean, Dan Omar, Mike Towers, Raul Alejandro, Anuel, Eladio Carrion, like it was insane, like literally. And that was just only a group of like a portion of them. This was 2 days of jam packed of reggaeton artists, and it was crazy because one, it was in Miami. It was in December actually, and it was hot. It was like 90 degrees. So that on top of the festival, because there's so many different artists that are hitting the stage, they have different stages. So imagine, and they're all happening at the same time. So it's like, okay, 5 o'clock Raul's gonna go on, but wait, 5 o'clock Eladio's gonna go on this other stage, but then also Justin Quiles is gonna go on at 5 on this other stage, and they're all not far, but they're not that close to each other. So it's literally making a split decision of, okay, who do we go to see and to cover? So it was great. It was a great experience, although it was very tiring, very exhausting. It was hot. But honestly, for my career, I feel like it was amazing. I got to be there. I got to network with a lot of people, and I was in the photo pit, the video pit. So I was like literally this close to Anuel and Raul Alejandro. So I low-key wanted to faint because I'm a huge fan of them, especially Mike Towers. I love me some Mike Towers. But it was great. It was great. I got to meet a lot of the publicists there, and I even got to get some interviews, which was awesome. I got to interview Blessed, which is, a huge Colombian artist. I got to interview Farina, also a huge Colombian artist, and I got to interview Carmen De Leon. So it was great. It was honestly great. It definitely, I didn't have any expectations going in, so it surpassed them. And I'm hoping to do it again. It's coming up this year in Las Vegas, so let's see.
Where can the audience see or follow your work?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at The Only Kayla. I also have a show, Mega Hits at noon on Mega Atlanta Radio, and I'm here Monday through Friday from 12 to 1. So if you guys want to tune into my show, it's lit, guys. You can just go to our website, megaatlradio.com. We also have an app, Mega Atlanta Radio, so you can tune in. So you can find more about my show there. And really just on social media. I have the pleasure of working with Mega Atlanta Radio, and so I do a lot of my events through the radio station. I do a lot of my articles through there. So that website, megaatlradio.com, you can check out my latest interviews there. You can check out a lot of our blogs there. You can tune into my show. And then just on Instagram, I'm always putting out content on Instagram. I'm always putting out my interviews there. So that's really where you can find the bulk of everything.
Kayla, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. As you know, this platform is to give people their respect and their praise, give them their flowers while they're still here, and help them gain more exposure because we need more of that. And it's just unbelievable that all these years has gone by and I've watched you grow in your career, and I can't wait to see where you will be in your career 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, because you're only getting started. So I salute you, much respect to you, and best of luck on everything.
Thank you so much, Mike. Honestly, I want to give you a big shout out because, like I said earlier in the interview, we were in college together. We went to Mercy College. Had the same major, and we were really out there hustling back in the day. Just aspiring journalists, aspiring, wanting to be something and wanting to make an impact. And I feel like you are doing that. You're a filmmaker, you direct, you do everything, honestly. And so it's amazing for me when I look back and I look now to everything that you've accomplished and, getting, winning awards and getting into film festivals. That's huge. And so I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be, a friend and a colleague of yours. So I just want to say thank you and big shout out to you. What's next for me? Honestly, that's a question that I think about every single day, right? What's next for me, Kayla Rivera, the only Kayla? And honestly, I don't know. I don't know what's next for me. I know that I like in the direction in which I'm going now. Um, I love what I do here at Mega Atlanta Radio. I also freelance write for Static Media Monday through Friday as well. So, I'm putting out entertainment articles every single day. So you guys can check that out at nikkiswift.com also. And I don't know, sometimes I battle with, do I want to get back into that news realm in terms of like going back to a news station? Do I want to juggle everything that I'm juggling now? Radio. I do freelance for a TV network also, and then doing print. I don't know. I just know that I'm really, really excited for what's to come. I'm amazed at what God has done in my life. And if He's opened up all these doors for me, I can not only imagine for what's to come. So I'm just really excited for the future. And I don't know. I guess we'll see. Today is the big day. It is election day across the nation, and we are here live in Atlanta at the C.T. Martin Recreation Center, where so many people have been coming in and out of the doors behind me to cast their ballot. Taylor Stewart here. This is her first time voting ever. So, Carla, tell me, what made you want to come out and vote for this election?
Because I seen it all on TV, on the news and everything, and I say I have to make it possible for myself to go out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for this episode. And this is also the season finale of the Respect and Pray Show. Stay tuned for season 2 because it will be exciting with more guests and more people that deserve more respect, more praise, and more exposure. Always remember, mutual respect, mutual love, and mutual admiration. So stay tuned to season 2.